My wife and I just bought our first house in our 20s. I have this stack of paperwork right here. And so in today's video, I'm going to share the 4 things I wish we would have known before going into the home buying process. Knowing these in advance would have saved us thousands of dollars, would have saved us a lot of stress, and would have saved us probably a bunch of tough conversations with each other. And so that said, let's go ahead and get into the first one, which is the untalked about cost of buying a home. When you're buying a home, everyone always focuses on the mortgage payment. And I've done a whole video on that alone of just making sure that you can afford the mortgage payment and doing all the math behind it to make sure it doesn't take up too much of your monthly income. But honestly, those are the costs everyone talks about. And there's a lot of them that many folks don't talk about, and a lot of them that I wasn't really aware of going into the home buying process. For example, before you even finalize your offer on a house, let's say you make the initial offer and it gets accepted, there's a window there where you will pay for inspections. We had a full home inspection done. We also had a termite inspection done. There's mold inspections, those kind of things you can also do. But this is all before you even finalize your offer. And we were in the hole, let's say, I think about $750 to $1,000 on our pre-inspections of the house once we had made our offer. And so if you find something that you don't like with a home or it's a deal breaker, you have to eat that cost and you will have to repay for that cost on a future house when you go and make an offer on it. And so that is a cost that we didn't really have a great idea of going into this before, but it's definitely one that can add up quickly, especially if you are making multiple offers on different houses. And then let's say everything goes good, the inspection passed with flying colors, your offer got accepted, and now you're moving into closing. Closing costs can add up very fast. And I was aware of closing costs going into buying a house, but I was expecting around $3,000 to $5,000. Our closing costs actually ended up being closer to $13,000. And this is not something that a lot of people really talk about during the home buying process. And these are costs that you will owe no matter your down payment. So even if you're putting a small amount of money down, you are still going to have to pay your property taxes. You're still going to pay your insurance premiums. You're still going to have to pay the fees to the bank for the title fees, for doing all the contract work that they do. And this all adds up quickly. And it's just not a cost that a lot of people highlight when they go to buy a home. Everyone always says closing costs, but it's just something you also need to include on top of whatever down payment that you plan to put on a house. So that's one that kind of snuck up on us. So keep that in mind. There are a number of kind of talked about costs with inspections and closing costs that go into buying a home that don't necessarily make the front page of costs when you are initially considering what it is going to run you to get into your new home. The second thing I wish I would have known the importance of before going into buying a house is the importance of patience. There's a lot of time that goes into buying a house, and it is a big decision. You're looking at multiple houses sometimes, on the weekdays after work. On your weekends, you're sometimes spending, half day, sometimes even a full day driving around looking at different properties. It's a very time intensive process, and it can be easy to want to rush and just pick a house and get into a house quickly because you're tired of going to looking at different things. But as a first time home buyer or a young home buyer, I think this is a great time to actually learn what you like in a house and what you don't like in a house. We had a notepad when we would go into a house and we would write down the pros and cons of each. And we kind of built this list as we were looking at homes of what we liked and what we didn't like. And so we could really tell just from looking at almost, Zillow listings is, hey, this looks like this other house that we didn't really like, or ooh, this is close to what we did like in this other one. Let's actually go look at it. So being patient, taking time to notice those things, going to see a lot of houses is very important. And it's so important that it actually led us directly to getting our house. When this house first came on the market, we came and looked at it, we really liked it, and then unfortunately it actually got pulled from the market and it was gone for about 2 weeks. Luckily, we were patient in the home buying process. We said we weren't going to get emotionally attached to anything. There will always be another house. We weren't rushing. And would you know it, this house came back on the market about 2 weeks later, and we were prepared to jump on it. So if we wouldn't have been patient and we would have rushed into another house, we would have missed the opportunity to get into the home that we have today. And it's honestly one of our favorites of all the houses that we looked at. And so the lesson there is just be patient when you're being a first-time home buyer. Take the time to learn about different areas, learn about what you like in a house, learn about what you don't like in a house. If there's a house that goes off the market, give it a week or two. It might come back, offers might fall through. And so use patience to your advantage, and it will likely save you from making a decision that you regret. Number three is one that often catches a lot of flack, and that is the importance of having a good real estate agent. I used to have my real estate license when I was in college. I did a little bit of real estate work, and I understand why a lot of agents get a bad rap, because all it takes to get your real estate license, you go and study and you take the test, and it's kind of something that a lot of people do on the side and kind of like don't treat it as a professional job, I guess you can say. So that said, it's very important to find an agent who treats this as a professional gig, right? A good agent, especially for young or first-time homebuyers, can be a huge help. Like I mentioned before, how we developed that list of things we liked and didn't like, our agent was taking note of that as well. And we would sometimes walk into a house and he would use his experience, because he's seen thousands of homes. He would point out, hey, X, Y, and Z, look at that on the roof, look at that on the foundation. The backyard, it's not the best because of this reason. You have neighbors here and here. Things that we didn't really think about. And honestly, we would walk into some of these houses, we would be in there for 2 minutes, and he would point these things out that we weren't necessarily thinking of, and we'd be out and on to the next one. And that's just one example of how agents can be helpful. Our agent was extremely helpful in the negotiation process. We were actually on vacation when we placed the offer on our house, and our agent dealt with all the negotiation, all the back and forth. And long story short, even as a first-time home buyer in a what you would probably call a competitive market, we were able to buy our house for $15,000 under asking. And a lot of that was thanks to kind of his negotiation tips and how that negotiation process usually works, especially when you're working with a difficult seller like we were. And where can you find a good agent? We found ours on Zillow and honestly got lucky. He was the first one that we matched with. He went to the same college that I went to. He was a local guy and we really got along, and he was great. He'd been in the area for years. But if I was doing this again, and if he's here, I'm going to use him again. But if we go somewhere else, I'm likely going to ask for recommendations from coworkers, and then from there, maybe check Zillow and talk to 2 or 3, 4 agents and really get a feel for which one that we would like to use long term and which one we thought was best for our situation. Basically, what I would do is hold almost a mini interview with a handful of agents, and then from there just decide which one was the best fit for us to work with, because I enjoyed it. It was a big help, and I think the good ones are worth their weight in gold and will save you a lot of money and probably a lot of headache as well. Coming in fourth is one that kind of ties back into the inspections that we talked about, but it's just that the inspections aren't going to catch everything. You can look at stuff with your realtor, you can have the inspection process done, but they're going to catch the major things, right? Hey, your AC is old, your roof has some damage here, this window looks bad. Hey, maybe you want to go and look at the foundation on this corner of the house. But there's a lot of little things that sometimes the inspections won't catch. Like, for example, half of our paint in a couple of the rooms that we have is different from the rest of the house, and this was something that we didn't catch. This is something that the inspectors didn't catch, and it's not a big deal, but it's just something that we're going to have to go back and repair in the future years. Another thing was how water drains on our property. When we came and looked at the property and the inspectors came and looked at the property, it hadn't rained, and so it's really tough to tell where water is going to hold and how it's going to drain off. And just little things like that that can increase your cost of owning a home, or when you get into a home you realize, I need to go and pay to change this. But as long as you know that the inspection isn't going to catch everything, I think you'll be okay. But just don't go in there thinking that the inspector is going to be the end all be all, because as soon as you get into a house, there will be those existing issues, but there are also going to be things that are going to continually break, and those are going to cost money. So just be prepared for that, and just know that the inspections are great, but they're not going to catch everything when you're going through the home buying process. Overall, our home buying process went pretty smooth, and there are only a few things that my wife still gives me heck about to this day. But knowing the 4 things in this video before going through that process definitely would have saved us some money, would have saved us a ton of stress. And so if you are going through the home buying process, if you have any questions, drop them down below and maybe I can help you out. Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, hit the subscribe button. I'm a new channel. I would really appreciate it. And if you want more content like this, I also have a free newsletter that I'll link down below. But thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.